C10 Demonio Dinaja Abarera Legos Ram Ori Banish 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 C10 Demonio Dinaja Abarera Legos
Chat. Hello, chat. How are you this evening? Chat, quick question. How's the audio sound? We were having major technical difficulties. My normal audio source wasn't working. I had to use a different source. Not sure how the fuck this sounds, so I'm just curious. Like, what do you guys think? Does it sound good like it normally sounds? Or is it all fucking wonky?
It's wonky.
Is it wonky, darling?
Is it wonky? Not to be confused with is it donkey?
Exactly.
Mistake happens all the time.
Exactly. So, chat. So, how's it sound? How's the audio sound? Is my audio good? Amazing. Sounds fine. Excellent. All right. Good. That's all I want to make sure. It's a podcast after all. You know. It actually sounds amazing. Awesome. All right. Well, it's a podcast, right? So like audio is kind of like key. You know.
It is a casting of the pods.
It is I like that. It's a casting of the pods. Oh.
How many pods shall we cast this evening?
Better than usual. Oh wow. All right.
Awesome.
All right. Brain Witch coming in with a yeah.
No offense to nobody else, but the person I want to be when I grow up is in.
So yeah, I know who it is. Another thing, I wanted to start this week, but starting next week, we're going to be streaming both to YouTube and Facebook.
If you can figure it out.
Yeah, if you can figure it the fuck out. Right.
Yeah.
So basically, just look for my page on Facebook, which is Adius Dade. The page, not the profile, because we're going to be streaming to the page. And just follow the page, and so that way you'll get notifications when we go live over there. If you so wish to watch us on the Bookface.
Bookface.
The Bookface, yes.
That must mean that this is the TubeU.
This is the Tubi-Ubi.
The world has gone mad.
Oh, long before we were ever fucking born.
Madder than a hatter.
Madder than a hatter. Wow. I like
Madder
that.
than a hatter.
I like it. Me likeys.
If anybody wonders why I have weird facial expressions today, it's because I'm listening to dark synth in the background. So I'm just like, it's not a stroke, I promise.
Yeah, so he's not listening to the mantra in the background.
It's too hard to go back and forth for me with the YouTube. It sounds funky, and then I hear myself, and it gets all freaked out.
Yeah, funky. It's a good day. It's a good day. So, Mr. Mystic, everybody's favorite bottom. Just waiting for the reaction.
Makes me sound kind of slutty.
What deck do you have for us today? Is it a big deck, a little deck, a medium deck?
It's a medium deck. It's a little weak on the wood. But it's interesting, to say the least. So today, this deck literally just came in today. So it's a new deck to my collection.
Nice.
Not quite sure if it hits the spot just yet, but we're working through it. It takes time for these things. It is a Kickstarter that has been recently fulfilled, and it's called Magicians, Martyrs, and Madmen.
I like the title.
Yeah, and it's weird because, and again, I might have to turn my music off in the background. It's like, right now, it's in one of those refrains that sounds like Diane Summers' Jazzercise. It's like, it's really freaky. So this is actually by Travis McHenry. Anybody familiar with Travis McHenry?
Was he the one that did the occult and angel decks? The demon terror.
Yeah, the occult terror, the demon terror, the angel terror. Yes. So same guy.
We definitely need to do another. We need to do a new LFM reaction video.
Oh, I don't know if I can
Cat,
stomach
really?
it.
My cat literally just stole something off of the desk. Like, literally came in off the corner, sneaking in off the corner, and I just saw a paw.
That's cute. So I'm walking around. Curse, I actually took the occult and the angel terror and put them together into one very large terror. And it actually works better that way for some reason. Like it works. It's pretty cool. So yes, thankfully, Mr. Rook did get me this deck. So first things first, this is the back. I mean, I feel like they could have done better. It is reversible, but I mean, I feel like they could have done better. It's very flimsy cardstock. It's art. It's like an matte art canvasy paper. It's thick enough to be considered a deck, but I prefer more thickness in my decks. A little thin there, but you work with all of them. They all have their places. It's a different artwork, so I mean it's good. It really is. It's not the worst cardstock. I don't know if everybody remembers, but there's the deck from whatchamacallit. It's anyway. You would expect some of them to just use a better cardstock. The best cardstock I think I have is probably True Black, or the Sabbath Tarot, the Sabbath Project Tarot. Those two, like, they're amazing. Plus the imagery in the Sabbath Tarot, if you haven't done it with Alan Spears, and I never can get the other person's name right because I always messed it up, but his artwork is amazing and those cards are amazing. And let me tell you, maybe not you, Malice, but me and Scarlet probably would be doing a little bit of this halfway through that deck. But anyway, I digress. We're going back to this deck here. And now what's interesting about it, it's a really, really cool take on the tarot. And each card is you guessed it, magician, madman, or martyr. So if you look at this one, this is James Douglas, the third Marquis of Queensberry, is the Fool. So as you can see, it's nice artwork. It's really neat. It's artistically done. It's on a canvasy paper. I like it. What I do also like is that these have these these individuals on it. So like Rook said, Aleister Crowley is on one of these, so I will find it. But before we go through that, the High Priestess, for example, Marie Laveau. And again, some really nice artwork. Like, it's some of these things I could see blown up into actual prints and used. They're really nice. Emperor Nero. Another thing, I don't know how I feel about this. I guess I like it. This is one of those decks that is considerate to gender issues. So you have 3 lovers cards. You can choose which one you like. Whenever I see that, I keep them all in. Like, you'll sometimes have 2 magicians, or like where the Hierophant and Judgment are reversed in some decks. They'll put both of them in both places. It's kind of weird, so I like it. But I have 3 lover cards. You have this lover's card, which is Eva Carrier and Juliette Bisson. I don't know who they are, but lesbian lovers. You have Evita and Juan Perón for your heterosexual lovers. But again, nice imagery. And then you have my favorite card in the deck, Sergius and Bacchus, if you can imagine why. Best card in the deck, I'm just saying. Best deck in the deck. And then, for example, I know a lot of you know Edward Kelly and John Dee. If we're talking about like Enochian magic and angels and things like that. So you have Edward Kelly as the Hermit and Wheel of Fortune as John Dee. So again, these are all historical figures in most cases that have these imagery. So Marquis de Sade is the sun. Heart titty. And I don't get this one. I'm sorry. Y'all maybe I'm just too young, or I don't get it, but Aleister Crowley is the world. Like, I have to think on that one for a bit. I am not sure how I feel. But even the pip cards all the way through it, pretty cool. I mean, there's lots of people that I recognize and names. Well, obviously I've never met them because, I was dead then, not born. They're dead, whatever. But the names are very familiar and their representations are pretty freaking cool. I know a lot of you might like this one. This would be a very helpful Eight of Cups. This is Reverend Thomas Baker. I think the point is getting across. I just said across. That was terrible. I should be taken out back and beaten. But anyway, I'm not going to go through all of them, but you get the idea. They all have like the names of the magicians, madmen, and martyrs. Great Kickstarter, great gift from Rook, and I am just very excited to even have this deck. Pretty cool. I think I want to try to read with it to do a weekly reading, but it is a little bit of a weird one for me because I haven't spent a whole lot of time with it. But yeah, I wonder. I wouldn't expect that the world would be a false belief, but I wonder if it's just ultimately, regardless of what Aleister Crowley did, became, was, or any of that, we gotta admit the man did exactly what he wanted to do. Like nobody had him doing anything he didn't want to do. And maybe that's the message of the world from that perspective. I don't know. So, but totally cool. I enjoy. Get a couple. Very easy to shuffle, I'll tell you that. And it's not like it's bad card stock. It's just a little thinner and flimsier than I had expected. And yes, there is a book, which I forget because usually with a deck of cards, I go right into the deck of cards and don't touch the book. But I probably should look that up since it's a little confusing on why Crowley is the world. We're going to do that before we actually read here. But I've been really spending some time with some off-the-wall decks, like the Earth and Bone Oracle. Oh my God, that one is so good. Let's see. Aleister Crowley was the beast. His free love philosophy, rejection of traditional religion, prolific drug use. Well, we know all that. The world card indicates success and the best of everything, representing connection with the divine. Aleister Crowley's head fills the image as though all spirituality is contained inside his physical orb. He transcends. Oh, this is definitely somebody as enjoys Crowley, I would say. Crowley transcended the mundane but was grounded on earth by his delight in sensual pleasures. So the world is a complicated card in which the spiritual and the physical are joined. I could see that. Still don't know that I see Crowley as that person, but must be that devil terror. Gets you every time. Speaking of, while I'm shuffling, I want to point out something about a book. So I've been reading the Uncle Setneck's Essential Guide to the Left-Hand Path. I love the book. I've shared it with a lot of people, a couple of them who are pretty devout Christians, and it's funny because they're very open-minded people. They also love the book, by the way, which is very interesting. But one of my friends who I haven't seen in 10 years is reading it and is already getting freaking hate for it from her friends. You're a Satanist. You're dabbling with the devil. You're losing Christ. It's like, seriously, it made me want to vomit. Hate stuff like that. If you can't read something that challenges your understanding or your thoughts, you have problems that you need to deal with. All right, we ready to pull a couple cards? Anybody in the chat, pick a number 1 to 10. First number gets it. I need help this week. It's been a rough week. 1 through 10. First person who picks a number in there. 3. Perfect. I'm going to cut 3 times. And then we're going to go with this card on the top. Scarlet one. Well, our first card is the 3 of Swords. So, the 3 of Swords, really, really, really fitting for me. In this particular 3 of Swords, it's the Tsar. It's Tsar Ivan the Terrible. So this, 3 of Swords can be a pretty rough card, and most of the swords can be. They're pretty like, do your shit, cut it off, make it happen. It's really all about that knowledge focus. But our 3 of Swords here is really kind of about cutting off the fat is kind of how I see it. You have a sword, right? We talked about this all the time. I talk about this all the time when I talk about swords. Swords, knives, blades, they can cut you, they can kill, but they can also trim the fat and make things lighter and work better. And that's what the Three of Swords is saying to do in the next week. I certainly understand exactly where this is coming from. I'm also a little biased with some issues I'm having this past week, but this is cut the fat. Let go of what you don't need. So we need to do some trimming this week. You know, regardless of what it is, there's something that is not effective or not serving you, and you're allowing it to stay around, which is also causing things to go rancid. So let's cut the fat off, and go with the remainder of what we need or what we have. Our second card, I'm going to cut 5. Since Curse had their next number, which was 5, and let's see what we get. Interesting, Brain Witch. Scarlet, you asked for 3 and you got a 3. Let's see if we get a 5. That would be creepy. And we have the High Priestess. So the second card, High Priestess. This is, sorry, I need more light in here. This is Marie Laveau, Voodoo Queen of New Orleans. I rhymed it. I'm a poet and I didn't know it. So, High Priestess. This is, if you've been watching or listening to me ever do tarot, High Priestess and the Magician are my 2 favorite cards in the deck because them alone represent every single thing I think in the cycles that can be had, moved, or done. And so whenever the High Priestess comes up, the first thing that always comes to mind is stop taking shortcuts, number 1. The High Priestess has some mystery to her. She has some things that are a little bit hidden. But the magic is always good and the magic is always very powerful, but you cannot take shortcuts when the Empress shows up. You know, things have to be brought to full term with the Empress. So while we're cutting off the things that don't serve us, we're going to allow some things this week to come to full term, but we're going to follow the magic all the way through. We're not going to cut it, the magic part. And then who had the third number? Dragon Dancer had the third number at 9, so let me go here. I'm going to do actually one cut this time and pull the 9th card. The Hanged Man. Very, 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 very fitting. I can't even freaking talk. So the Hanged Man, maybe somebody knows who this individual is. I'll look it up in the book in a minute, but it's Gongo Lutete. Gongo Lutete. That is either a madman, martyr, or what's the other end? Magician.
Be right back.
All right. So, I mean, obviously we have somebody here that's on a firing squad. Doesn't look really good, but it's the force of the perspective that changes with the Hanged Man. Often when we look at Hanged Man, we're talking about, or in a traditional tarot, you see the Hanged Man upside down, right? Because the Hanged Man is looking at maybe a different perspective or a representation perhaps of something like Odin. You know, and they search for the runes, getting the knowledge. So I'm really looking at that different perspective. I don't know. I'm gonna look it up in a minute though. It's Gongo Lutete, and I will see if I can't find it. But you know, it often comes about changing the position, and I think this kind of goes along very well with the rest of it. Where 3 of Swords, we're cutting off the fat, right? We're cutting off the things that don't serve us. We're not going to take shortcuts. And then we're going to make sure that we have a different perspective or allow other perspectives to show for us. The Hangman is a really cool card to me because it's often about an action. It's instead of just, you know, perceiving things differently, it means go out and change your perspective. You know, flip it around actually and look at it and see what it is. See the opposite side of something. Even if you don't agree with it. It's just like I was saying earlier with the reading. When you are reading a book, or you are talking or having a conversation or learning about something, it doesn't mean you have to agree with it or take it into your practice. You have to accept and see it and see how it maybe changes your perspectives on other things. So yes, little tree sap, brain witch, growth, perspective, totally what this is about, as far as I can tell. It is a very simple and easy message. It's a very good a message to follow. So I think we can serve ourselves on that, even if we didn't have the tarot telling us this week. This is a good every week cut the fat off from what doesn't serve you. I'm having a hard time with that myself, by the way, right now. I'm allowing some of the fat to hang on the meat. Don't laugh. And make the meat a little rancid. So I need to cut some things for sure. And I'm also trying to take shortcuts in some things now, and I just needed to slow down. And I did that today, actually, to slow down and really just take the steps as they go. And then I definitely am going to need to consider some new perspectives this week, and try to change how I'm thinking or how I'm looking at things. So I think that is our message, which is a pretty striking message from the magicians, martyrs, and madmen. And now that the read is over, I'm going to look real quick on that hanged man because I want to see who that person is because I don't know. I don't know who Gongo Lutete is. Okay. Gongo was a guerrilla soldier who fought during the Congo War, raised as a slave, won his freedom through the prowess at raiding villages and capturing slaves for his master. Once freed, he was the leader of a gang of thousands of soldiers fighting against the Belgian invaders, and then joined them to fight against Islamic slave traders. So ultimately, this is somebody who fought for well, I'm not going to say equality because it's a war, but against the slave trade. And when you think of it that way, it certainly does make your perspective change a little bit, doesn't it? Say, holy crap, I'm worrying about first world problems over here. I haven't done something like that. So give it a little different perspective. That is a very, very easy to read deck than I thought it would be. Like, this is really, huh? We gonna spend some time together. I'm rubbing my deck.
So you're liking it?
I'm rubbing it.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, no, I do. I told Brad earlier, I was like, I'm not sure if this one's gonna be too good for a read because I haven't spent any time with it, but man, I like it. That's nice.
It's good, man. That's good. How many decks have we gone over on this show?
I don't know, almost one per show. I don't keep track anymore.
You used to?
Yeah. I figure if one of them, if I end up doing one twice, it'll be long enough away on on accident. Regardless, it'll be far enough away that
nobody will notice.
Remember? Yeah. Like I was gonna do the Witch's Oracle tonight, but this one came in and I didn't expect it. The Witch's Oracle is a pretty cool, very simple. It's very similar to the Asylum, in its simplicity, but it's very, very colorful. So it's a nice deck, but we'll do that one next time. But yeah, Magicians, Martyrs, and Madmen by Travis McHenry. It came.
Is that his third deck, or does he have more than that?
He has more than that, actually. I think this might be fourth or fifth, and he's got another one coming. And the other thing, where did I put it? I'll have to look for it because this is. Oh, I see it. So this obviously it's a deck. It has the book with it. I don't generally read the book, but for the people, I think I will, because I want to know who they are if I don't recognize them. But it also came with an actual historical compendium. Look at this shit.
Jesus.
I mean, it's an actual freaking full read. So it goes along with it, but this is the historical compendium. So I'm gonna really probably dig into this. This is not about the cards at all. This is just about the historical figures they represent. So,
right.
That'll be interesting. So, very, very, very nice read. I'm giving myself credit for the read, but the deck itself was what I enjoy. I like my decks.
Yeah, I think it came out well. Definitely think it came out well. So as per usual, we kind of don't have any subject matter for the evening. One of the things I kind of wanted to keep going on about, I had last week I had to leave abruptly from the show, and then edit the show because the show kept going 2 hours more after it ended because I wasn't here. So I had to edit that part out. I'm curious how many of you actually hung out that extra 2 hours. Like, I wonder how many people actually sat here and said, let's see when this motherfucker comes back. Yeah, how was the after show conversation?
I don't remember. I know it was fine. I mean, we did. I don't remember a lot of just. I know there's a couple people in there, so it was good. Um,
Paranormal hung out.
yeah, it was funny because we were talking. At some point, we were talking about. It's like I wonder how long it's going to be if he wakes up in the morning, goes and then doesn't realize it's still going, and like, yeah, funny.
Okay, Noella did too. Okay.
Oh, after show, yes, and Little Tree Step. I remember now. We talked a lot about not even specifically Hail Thyself, but how um very engaging certain parts of the discussion were when it comes to utilizing your darkness to kind of be your power, and kind of the concept of what I was trying to verbalize of um not just your darkness is your power, but your the darkness is a big part of having that change or having that process of being able to use it for power. So it was very nice. Like I yes, abandonment issues were abound last week. Um, I mean, I'm having my own right now as we speak. But
So
but yeah, so I mean, it was very nice, and we had some good conversation. I think it went well.
yeah, I think that the subject matter from last week was pretty good. Um, I think, kind of like continuing down kind of like that kind of like direction. Um, I was like, where's Malice the whole time? So I'm sorry about that. So for those that don't know, um, I had an emergency that I had to deal with my son, which is why I just kind of got up and left. I didn't say anything. Um, and unfortunately, he wasn't feeling well, and I wasn't able to just come back. Um, so I was kind of like with him most of the time there, trying to make sure like he stopped getting sick and things like that. So I do apologize for the abrupt, exit that I took, but that's not going to be happening this week. At least I hope not. I mean, he sounds fine. Like he's over there, like yelling, screaming, swearing at his friends. So as any normal 8-year-old does in this day and age. Right. So I think continuing on down that path, because that path and that idea, because I don't want people to get the wrong idea either. I don't want people to think that the only way to obtain power is through your darkness. I think what I was trying to kind of like convey is power through your darkness is this idea of taking something that could be destructive to you and turning it around and creating something constructive for yourself. Turning it into something that empowers you instead of debilitates you, right? And everybody's going to be at different stages of that, right? That pathway, right? Excuse me. So everybody's going to be at different stages of that pathway, and I think having the ability to take something that is dark and painful inside of you and making it something constructive for you to focus your magic, to focus your power, your ability. I mean, most of you, I think you guys can kind of see my altar off in the background there, a little bit more of a direct view of it. And I use a lot of visualization in the objects that I have on my altar to direct that energy. To take, I think most of you kind of like, at some point during the podcast last week, I'd mentioned my feelings about, my father, my stepfather, the man that raised me, being proud of me, at 36 years old. And though there was a part of me that was happy that he finally actually fucking said it, there is the other part of me that was like, I don't need you to be proud of me right now. Like that's not what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for you to be, proud of me now. I needed that 20 years ago. And again, it's not being ungrateful to the fact that he's finally said that he's proud of me. I was very grateful that he finally said it, because he could have never said it, right? But it's also understanding that emotion inside of you that says, what the fuck, man? Like, why didn't you do this 20 years ago? You're probably never going to get an answer on that question, but I think under being able to understand the emotion and understand what it is that you're feeling and not deny yourself that emotion. Like, if you're feeling something, don't deny yourself that you're feeling it just to make appeasement easier. Right? Don't do things just to appease people. There's a time and place for it, but in most situations, be true to yourself. Be true to how it is that you feel. Be connected to yourself. Allow yourself to truly kind of have that connection, to you. And allow yourself to grow through that. To grow through what it is that you're feeling inside of yourself. I think the more that we deny ourselves what it is that we actually feel and say, okay, well, I'm going to let this go. I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to let this go. I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to let this go. I'm not going to say anything. All of that shit compounds. Like, it compresses inside of you. Because you're not really letting it go. Because if you sit there and you think about it, at least in my experience with my emotions and my situations like that, when I say I'm going to let something go, I don't really let it go. I just kind of like push it down inside and kind of let it sit there and like pretend that it's not festering and bothering me. But like there's every time I think about it, and this is shit that goes back to like when I was fucking 8 years old. When I sit there and I think about it, it irritates me. It bothers me. So I think the best course of action for most people, in my opinion, is allow yourself to feel the things that you're feeling. You're not wrong for feeling the things that you're feeling. People may disagree with you, but you're not wrong for having those feelings. And I think the easiest way or the best way to actually let go of something is allow yourself to feel it, allow yourself to go through it, allow yourself to process it, and then let it go. But if you try to fight it and say, no, I'm not going to feel this thing right now, I've always said, in my opinion, you do not control your emotions. You control how you react to your emotions. Emotions happen. Something's going to piss you off. It's going to piss you off. You don't dictate whether or not something pisses you off. You do, however, dictate how you react to that emotion. The control over oneself, right? How you react to that emotion in the moment. Do you explode? Do you hold your tongue? Do you wait until a more appropriate time? Right, to have a discussion? You wait until you're a little bit calmer and more clear-headed to think about things. Those are all things that you control when you feel an emotion. Right? When you feel sad, you don't control when you feel sad. You just feel sad. Right? But you control how you act or react to that emotion. So it's okay to feel the things that you're feeling. Allow yourself to feel those things. Allow yourself to be in that moment, even if it's in a little space inside of your head, that in the moment that's the only place that you can feel what it is that you're feeling, that you can't outwardly express it. And I feel that allowing yourself to feel these things, allowing yourself to be in that moment, that is the point where you learn to use your darkness. You learn to use that dark place inside of your mind where you hide everything. You hide it in that little box in the back of your head. There's just so much potential energy kind of festering in the back of your mind from all the shit that you haven't dealt with. Right? You can't control how these situations and these things have made you feel or make you feel. You can't control that initial emotional reaction. but you can control how you react to that emotional reaction. That's where your control lies. And I think that is the essence of Hail Thyself, is understanding, yes, you are your own God. You control what you do and what you don't do. Is it much easier said than done? Of course it is. 1,000-fold. It's much easier said than done. But I feel that when I say use your darkness is your power. It is. It truly is. Because it's the parts of you that you haven't allowed yourself to experience. You haven't allowed yourself to marinate in those situations for fear of your own emotions, for fear of yourself. And I think as long as you're afraid of yourself, you're always going to be holding yourself back. If you're afraid of what you're capable of doing, if you're afraid of your abilities, or you're afraid of feeling something, the only person you're limiting is you. So when it comes to kind of expanding, opening, and kind of really, truly kind of pulling that power out of you and really reaching your potential, well, that's the contrary of holding oneself back, right? You need to allow yourself to kind of be in this place, in whether it be in your mind or in a room or wherever it may be. Meditate on those feelings. Meditate on those things that you feel, those things that you're afraid of yourself. Because if you're afraid of yourself, it's almost like the idea of being God-fearing, right? If you're afraid of God, you don't really respect God. You're just afraid of consequence, right? If you're afraid of yourself, you're not really respecting yourself. You're afraid of consequence. You're afraid of the consequences of allowing yourself to feel something. Understand how to control yourself. Understand how to control your reactions. And allow yourself to feel. Allow yourself to go all the way with an emotion in a safe way. Mystic?
Oh yeah, am I a part of this or no?
Oh. Is that how this is going to be?
It's gonna be a monologue. I mean, I could have washed my hair twice.
Asshole.
No, I mean, yes, a lot of what you say I agree with. I don't think I mean, I do think you can control your emotions. I think you control your emotions by working through processes and learning how to have better coping mechanisms that ultimately change your frame of reference so that future emotions are managed in a different way. So yes, you can. And one of the things that is often failed to be taken to completion is actually allowing to work through those emotions and getting to the other side of them. That's where our visual, how do I say it? I mean, I do it all the time. You know, my issues, concerns, my personal failures, or things that I'm not aware of are brought to my attention by others who are willing to tell me them. And once you start learning them, working through them, and assessing them, you begin to learn and gain different mechanisms on how to work through and process that information. And in effect, you ultimately change your entire emotion, not just your reaction. You change your emotional response. You change how much acetylcholine is available in your synapses. You change how much serotonin is floating between different nerve cells in your brain. It does change. So truly, you can change your emotion and you can control your emotion. The reaction, by definition, is part of the emotion, right? And we know that because that's part of our human behavior. So I think it is important to, yes, accept and know and work through your issues, your I don't want to say traumas, because it's not always traumas, or just darkness. It's not always darkness either. It's those things. So like when I react to something, or I have a reaction to something, the biggest failure I can do is not to go back to it and ask myself the question, why did I do that? Why did I react that way? Is this a projection of what I'm actually thinking, doing, seeing, feeling? Because if I don't, each time that situation arises, I'm going to have the same reaction. So telling, like what I do and don't need, for example. Um, you get to a point, if you've had, for example, family issues, I can only express my own behavior and changes and things, where um, I thought I had accepted and worked through the emotion of my mom's abandonment of us, of me, um, and I hadn't. And I kept dealing with it over and over again, but I kept stopping right at the point of the anger. I got angry. I got mad. The simple fact that you can say in one breath, I don't need you to tell me now. I needed it then, but I'm glad you did it now, is the absolute underpinning of not having dealt with that trauma issue or thing all the way through. And I know that because I do it. I've done it, at least from my perspective. And so the thing is we have to keep either shadow work, is you can call it that if you want to. You have to keep addressing those individual things that are coming up that continue to cause us difficulty and strife. They're not darkness giving you power. They're our own brains creating a safe space so that we don't hurt. That is not darkness, that is light. When your brain is creating a space for you to express your behavior but feel good in the end, that's your light giving you your power. It's your darkness being available to you to change your frame of reference. It's all of those things. It's just like left hand path, right hand path. I have two, we talked about this in the after show. I have two fucking hands. I don't need to cut one off to work the other. I don't need to be left hand or right hand path. I have two hands. I'm going to use them both. I have 2 feet. I'm going to use them both. I'm going to fuck up. I'm going to have all these things that are going to happen. And I'm going to work through them as much as I can. I'm going to attempt to change and be a better person at any given moment. And like from your perspective, I am going to use the things that have caused me pain, which is what I think we're really calling our darkness here, is the things that cause us difficulty, pain, or that have been repressed or pushed back. And I'm going to use those things as the tinder to light the fire to make a change in our life. And that's, again, darkness, turning darkness into power, which I'm being semantic because I'm an asshole, is different than your darkness is your power. I know. I'm just being a jerk, but it's the same thing.
I love how Mystic says, yeah, I agree with most of what you said, but here I'm going to contradict every fucking thing that you said.
There's only one thing. There's only one thing that's contradictory in there, and that is, yes, use your darkness to transform and to be your power, because I think it is extremely powerful when you can do that, because not many people can. Like, a lot of times we just, like you said, we shove it away and we never touch it again. Even knowing it and thinking about it is giving yourself some power over it. But it still has to be processed in more than just dark into power. It has to be processed dark into understanding, into power, into control, into change, into alchemy, into transformation. It has to hit all of those points, as you walk that line. So again, kind of the same thing, but the real disagreement I have is it's not a one, and I don't even know if it's a disagreement, but it's not a linear process, I guess, is the best way to say it. It's very weavy. It's very up and down. It's top to the bottom. And today I might use my darkness for power, that particular thing that's giving me the gumption, but tomorrow it's going to be my depression in my bottom of the barrel. And until those two things come together and it's dealt with, it's not your darkness anymore. It's not your trauma anymore. And you move forward from it. A lot of us get kind of stuck there.
Well, I mean, I think it's always going to be your trauma, right? It's always going to be something that had happened to you. But
but it changes
your perspective on how you view it.
It comes out of trauma, though. Like, okay, one of the reasons, and I think, and I could be wrong on this, I'm not a mental health expert, but one of the things that we have to do as part of our regulatory process is every patient that comes into a facility has to be assessed for trauma-informed care. And that means that the care that we provide the patient understands that there may be traumas we don't know about and things that have happened to them that they have not addressed. And you can have two people side by side, both of them victim of the same trauma. They're going to process it completely different. Um, probably go through some similar things, whatever, similar, stages, I guess, of grief or stages of trauma management. Again, I'm not a mental health expert by any means. My mental health training is very limited. But to the fact that having experienced trauma and it affects you, it's like its piece of the pie becomes smaller, if that makes sense. Like your whole, right, like your whole body, your whole everything is this big pie, and when the trauma happens, the trauma is the big part of the pie, right? And then your personality and what's left of you is the little sliver. And as you process it and deal with it and go around it, your pie becomes you, and the trauma becomes the little sliver. Still there, but it takes up such a small piece of it because you've learned how to manage it and not project it, and how to adapt it and how to utilize it to do that next step or do that next piece. It's like I don't think my dad has
I
ever said he
understand.
was proud of me in my entire life. I would have loved to hear it, but I accept now through processing that he's just not capable of it.
I mean that's all well and fine. I mean, I think
But it
the
doesn't.
way
I'm not hurt by it. Like I'm not.
right.
I'm
I
not.
just think
Yeah.
thinking about like the pie graph kind of thing that you mentioned, right? Like I agree and I disagree. Because I agree in the moment that it becomes like this overshadowing aspect of yourself the more recent the trauma is. And you kind of go through and you kind of start kind of like getting yourself back and kind of like diminishing kind of like, what that trauma is. But I still think that, it's still part of you. It's not
Yeah.
gone.
That's why I say it's a sliver. It's not deleted. It's still a part of the pie. It doesn't go away,
It's just not the
but
focus.
it becomes a small part. Yeah, not the big part.
Mm-hmm.
And that
So
pie, the pie might start doing the Pac-Man thing for a while too. It gets bigger and smaller, bigger and smaller. It's not static. And I
mhm.
mean, at least it's not for me. Something will happen that'll remind me of it, and it'll kind of take me back there. It's just when we talked about it before about shadow work, we're doing some very deep and specific shadow work, and I'm dealing with things a second and third time that I've already dealt with that's in my shadow, but they're easier now because I've dealt with them and processed them in bits.
Mhm.
And they're not as affected. They don't affect me as much now. And I think that's what most people are trying to go for, right? To not to stuff we stuff it because it's easier at first and you have to live, you have to survive. So that's your first reaction for a
Mhm.
trauma, or even looking at yourself in the mirror is really hard to say, like the hardest thing for me, I never looked in the mirror and said, you actually are smart and you do a good job and you really care about people. I never said that to myself until I was 40 years old. That was less than a year ago. That's a hard thing to work through. Why you can't say that about yourself. And so, you work through it in bits and pieces, and it like you said, you're absolutely right. It's always going to be a part. It will not go away completely, but you will change
Yeah.
neuroplastically how you respond to it and how your emotions come of it. But yeah, it's always going
I
to be
mean,
there.
when
That
I
is
think
totally
when I
true.
think of I mean, for me personally, like when I think of like my trauma, when I think of like the pain that like I feel from my past and things like that, I guess my way of mm, sort of dealing with it is looking at it romantically, right? So, and I'm reminded of I think it's like the second Crow movie, Crow City of Angels. There's a part towards the end of the
Are we
film.
uninvited?
That's a good song.
It is actually a really good song. Sorry, go ahead.
Um,
Playing in my
but
head.
there's a part towards the end of the movie where the main villain figures out how to trap the guy and says, "Oh, there's nothing but pain for you now." And then, like almost like a light bulb turns on in the guy's head, the guy playing the crow in that particular film, and he kind of smiles and he says, "Pain is my power." And I think that, like, for some people, I think it's wonderful that I think some people can actually work through their shit. And if you can work through your shit, then work through your shit, and live a normal life. And but I feel that for some people, I don't think that that's an option, you know. But what I do with it is I take a negative and turn it into a positive. And you're right to a certain extent, where that darkness no longer becomes darkness, but becomes your light, because it becomes fuel to the fire, the reason you push forward.
It's transmutation and alchemy. But I disagree that I think, well, actually, that's wrong. I do agree with you. There are some people that will never make it through. But I feel like in my brain, and again, only can speak from my perspective on this because people's
Same.
traumas and things are different, right? But
Same.
if you are using your pain for your power and you're using it to fuel your power, one would think that the goal of utilizing it for that power would be to transform that pain into something that's less painful, right? So if you're not doing that, then you're not growing. Like that's part of therapy. Like I've been in therapy my whole life, but that's part of the change. And that's part of the reason that's why we're having these conversations, because us talking about it will hopefully allow somebody to hear what's happening and going on and say, okay, yes, I can use my pain for power. Maybe that pain is a little bit less painful now. And they become something different than they were when that trauma was affecting them in the way that it does. And I think that's pretty much the goal of most people in life, isn't just to constantly have or allow pain to exist so that I can have power. It's to utilize that pain to create something new and better in themselves. And that in and of itself, if you're using darkness as the term of the things that are in your shadow and that are hard and that are painful and negative, because that's what we're doing, you can't live there. If you live there, you're not using it for power. That's something else.
No, I'm not talking about living there. I'm talking about drawing from it.
Yeah.
Right.
But you're drawing from it, it changes it. Just like when you burn wood, it changes. It's no longer wood anymore, right? I personally view that kind of processing in that manner. Using that darkness for the light transforms that darkness into something else. And I hate using dark and light because that's not light. That's not what I'm going for. But it's the adjective we're using right now. So sorry, my hat's pinching my hair.
I just think that, I mean, for me, I'm kind of like, I've bounced back and forth inside of myself with the shit that I've dealt with and the shit that I've been through, quite a bit. Like I've said many times, I never look for sympathy. I don't want people to be sorry for me, because I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of the things that I have. I'm proud of where I'm at. For the most part, I'm proud of myself as a father, as a husband, as a friend. I'm proud of like what it is that I do on all those stages and all those fronts. I've got my shit that I deal with just like everybody else, but for me, I don't see a point in my life where I'm not going to be drawing from, my past experiences. I'm not going to be pulling from that. I don't see a point in my life coming at any point where that's not going to be a factor.
No, nobody's ever. I don't think that's ever going to happen for people unless you have Alzheimer's. Like that's the only way to get out of that one, or you die. But you'll be drawing from ashes of leftover, which is the reminder that you have overcome that, and that is alchemy. That is the transformation. That is the transmutation of our lives, because you want to have a better life and a better experience for your son than perhaps what you had in some instances. You're drawing on that to do that, but what your output is, and I'm looking at this very Virgo brained too, by the way, your output is a different thing than your input, and that's not nuclear fusion happening over there. It's not forever energy. If it's forever energy, then you're not dealing with it, and you need to. That's why you would go to therapy. That's why you would have somebody help you process that in a different way, so that fire is no longer burning you. It's now burning something inside you to do something else, right? You're always going to draw on it. I I know I will always draw on the traumas and experiences that I've had. But I don't get mad now when I think about my mom leaving me at my dad's doorstep and disappearing for 12 years and wondering, why I wasn't good enough or what her other things that occurred to me as a kid from her boyfriends. And it's those things don't make me angry anymore. I still draw on them to be as good of a person as I can. It makes me a little bit kinder with children. Um, to know that people go through stuff, it makes me, I think, a little bit softer of just assuming other people are probably going through something when they're having an angry moment with me. But I don't feel as much anger or frustration or fear or abandonment as I used to. I still feel some. It's still
Mm-hmm.
there. I'm still dealing with it too. It's coming back up, like I said, in the shadow work and stuff. I still need to go through it again. I still need to work through it. Yes, Scarlett, I still need to go through those things and walk through those processes, but each time it doesn't hurt near as much. And it's not because it's further away, it's because I'm taking my power back. It's no longer making me feel like I'm in the dark. The way is now lit. I am never going to do that. I am going to grow from that. And it just gets that sliver gets smaller and smaller for me. Again, every once in a while something will happen, it'll open up and I'll deal with it. Like, I mean, last week, some things that were happening at work are still happening. If you know any, I'm going to go back to my Virgo because Virgos often rule their entire life based on their career. It's what I do is who I am. And I am really working to separate those two things because um, I am back in severe abandonment issues and loss of control issues for things that are happening. And I'm dealing better with them than I ever would have 5 years ago because that darkness has been used as power in the past, but it's still not fully, I haven't fully dealt through it or went through it yet. So, and those things will keep coming up and they're always going to be there. To me, they're always going to drive us. But if we're not looking to transform them into something that serves us better, then I feel like we may be missing the mark. Because then you're just choosing to live in your trauma. You're choosing to live in your
Well,
pain.
here's the thing, though. It's like, I mean,
I'm not a therapist, by the way.
no,
I'm not. I'm just saying that because I'm a licensed person that has the capability of doing that, and I don't want anybody to get confused because if somebody takes anything I say, I can get in trouble.
I think there is a point of like dealing with something, accepting something happened, and trying to move forward from it, but always understanding that it's always there and it's always going to be a part of you. It's part of who you are and what helps make you who you are as a person. I think trying to
100%.
deny. I'm not saying that this is what you're saying, but
Yeah,
I want
yeah,
to just be clear. Is I think that like when people do try to ignore, the things that had happened to them, say this is not a part of me. This is not something that I dealt with. They try to disconnect themselves from that. I think that in my opinion is more dangerous than
it it's
than
an
anything.
it is, but it's an effective, appropriate part of the process when it occurs, right?
Yes,
But
initially.
yeah, it's you can't. That's what I'm saying when I say you can't live there. At some point, you have to move out of that and move through it, or you get stuck there. And I mean, that's what leads people to be, addicted. I've done a lot of, I shouldn't say this. I've done a lot of drugs. I've been a lot of drunk in my life. But I've never needed or felt the ability or the addiction to it. Both of my parents were addicted to cocaine, alcohol, all kinds of stuff. And I don't have that because I'm not utilizing that as an escape from what I have. I've been dealing with it, and I've been forced to deal with it too sometimes. But you're absolutely right. It's you cannot ignore it forever, or you will reap that negative.
Yep.
It will burn you down.
So I feel that like trying to take that step forward and at least saying this happened, it's an
Huge.
aspect of who I am. It may not define me, but it's there. It's a part of me. And that's where I'm at with like everything that like I've been through, like my darkness, my shadow, my my pain. Is that it doesn't define me. Um, it doesn't define who I am. But there's a lot of things that I've been through in my life. Like I sadly can't just pick and say, well, it's just like this one thing, or it's just this one thing, or maybe two things. Like the more that I work through my shit, the more I realize how fucked up my shit really is. And but
Long bag.
there is a positive to this, where, like I said, I draw from that. Like I draw from that, that pain, and I can honestly say that I'm a very difficult person to trigger. I can't say that I never get triggered because that would just be a fucking lie. But I mean, I'm a very difficult person to trigger. Generally speaking, I'm pretty good at kind of like keeping kind of like a disconnect with certain things. And I attribute that to kind of that understanding of saying your shit's not my shit, if that makes any sense. Like what somebody else's opinion doesn't affect me, doesn't bother me. It allows me to kind of stay on kind of like an even keel because I understand the things that happen to me, because I accept the things that happen to me, because I'm capable of using it to create something positive. I'm capable of using it to be constructive. Is that true in all situations? Of course not. Of course there are situations where I get upset, and I'm human, But I think having like that ability to be able to kind of say, okay, yes, this happened to me. This is a part of me. It hurt. It hurts when I think about it. But what can I do about it? What can I do with this? And I think that that's where kind of like taking that darkness, taking that pain, and turning it into something constructive. And I think people that go through like these, like I'm gonna, push like I maybe an unpopular opinion here, but I think that people that become like murderers or serial killers and things like that are people that weren't able to find a constructive outlet or a way to turn that pain into a constructive thing in their life, and they allowed it to consume them.
Yeah, that's a whole nother
Oh yeah, I
level of
know.
no.
And what do you
But
think though? Like, I mean,
I think it's true. I mean, I think you're right. We do use it constructive, but it's very like, and I again, I'm gonna repeat this. I'm being a little more careful right now because, I'm trying to use the right words that aren't always expressible the way I want them to be. But it's not. It's really important that I think really important that people, if they're listening or paying attention, understand that it's not a linear process, right? It's not. So if somebody's paying attention to this and they're like, oh, well, I'm using my trauma constructively, I'm like, well, that's great. That doesn't mean you dealt with it. It just means you're using it constructively. You still haven't processed necessarily what's happened. You can accept it. You can name it. You
but
can
I don't think
understand.
I feel, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm going
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I just don't want to
Fuck
lose
what?
my train of thought on this one. I don't think that reaching that healthy brain point is the only way to process trauma. I don't think that that's like the only way. Like I have to disagree.
No offense, but I don't think you've. And I'm going to call you out wholly on this one. You have not dealt with your trauma all the way to,
No, of
or
course
had
not.
any
No,
type
it's
of training
definitely I
that
have
would
not.
would
No,
lead
I'm
you to
not.
be able to make that comment. I'm just going to say it because I haven't either. We don't know that. I don't know if that's the case or not. I'm not going to speculate on that. But what I will speculate on, well, not speculate, but what I will say to that is it's not about the end. To me, there's no real end point of that. You know what I mean? It's not linear. It doesn't go, it happened, I named it, I called it, I dealt with it, I'm good now. Like that's not how it works. But you do get to a point where I've dealt with it and I process it and I have a better coping mechanism on how to manage how I react and how I process it in the future, right? That's
Look, the
it's
point that
still
I'd
not
like to
linear.
get to, the point that I'd like to get to is being manic all the time. Like being like that energized focus. You know, like when you're out of your depression and you're in like this, I guess it would be called manic. Like you're in this manic stage and you feel like you just have like this
I mean, if you're
clean,
bipolar, yes. If you're
this
not
clean
bipolar, then
energy,
no.
right? You know, like I'd like to get to the point where I feel like that just like all the time. Like where I'm just
Eh,
like, all right, let's
that's
go, let's
that's
do this.
that's not manic. That's something different. Um, but I mean, I know what you mean. But I mean, that human beings just really aren't built that way anyway. We're not meant to be 110% all the time. That's just not a good place to be.
Yeah, but I only get to be
Um,
110% like half a day. It kind of sucks. Like if I could get like at least one whole day, imagine the amount of shit that I get done.
Look, I will tell you, like, dealing with that with my mom and her with schizophrenia and bipolar together, that mania, no fun, no, no, no. Like, it is the most depressive mania. It's such a thing. But I know what you mean. I know but that's not mania. That's not manic. That's just that point comes to me. I could be wrong. You'd have to let the professionals decide. But that point that you mentioned about where there's a place in where the brain says that it happens that you don't think, I don't remember how you said it. I think the brain point, there's no specific brain point or whatever.
Uh-huh.
That's what you're looking for. And that's what will happen. That's what therapy does. Um, I mean, that's the purpose. So when you get there, you'll be like, holy shit, that's right. I my big therapy when I was younger was anger management. I'm sure nobody could ever imagine that. I have it does not I do not get easily set off, but when I do, like I literally see red and nothing else. Few people have gotten me to that point. I usually give a pretty solid, clear warning before I get there. That is part of my therapy. So if people hear me say, I'm not going, we said it last week, I'm at my limit. I'm not going to talk about this anymore, right? I'm not saying it now. I'm just saying that came out of therapy.
Yeah.
But that's because I hadn't reached the brain point to be able to do that. Plus, I also am drinking, which I'm also trying to stop drinking near as much as I used to because that doesn't help my situation at all. It just makes things more depressive and more wonky. But truly,
Wonky.
that's the thing. We're all trying to get to that place where our brain says, "Oh well, fuck. What does it matter now?" And I'll be honest, like all the stress I've been through just this whole year from work and the last couple years really, and this week and things that are happening, I'm just like, I am in a better emotional state than I've been in a long time because I'm saying it doesn't matter, but not in the I don't care. It doesn't matter. It's in the it doesn't matter as in the mantra I'm trying to learn right now or try to really focus on is every single decision you'll ever make is the right decision because once you make it, all other decisions cease to exist. You can't change the decision you've made. You can make a new decision, a second decision, a third, fourth, fifth, and forever decision. But those 10 that presented to you at the time you made the one you made, it's got to be the right one because the rest of them won't even exist anywhere. They're not an option. So as I go through the things that are happening to me that are stressing me out, I'm literally categorizing them into little pieces that say, okay, I feel weird about that. I need to deal with it. And this is where I'm coming up. I'm having abandonment issues with my work. I've said it before, but I know that because I've been able to adjust and see where that goes. Have I dealt with it yet? No. Am I still having weird emotions about it and not feeling good about it? Yes. But I've named it. I've called it what I think it is, and I've set it aside to deal with. Um, and now that I'm away from that situation, I've been able to think about it today and kind of process it and go through it. I think that's
Uh,
what a lot of us are looking for is just ways to process some of those things in a certain space and the reminder that trauma doesn't necessarily mean these huge big things, which I did not consider until Scarlett said that in one of our chats probably 6-7 months ago. Thinking that a trauma had to be this big thing that happened, like my mom abandoned me, that's a trauma. I'm like, yeah, but so is the one time, 2 times, 3 times she didn't show up to take me out to lunch on my birthday when she said she would, or the time that my dad made me stop playing softball because my legs hurt, and then he never would take me back again after that. And I really enjoyed doing that, and I blame him still for me being a relatively inactive adult. Um, that's not where I'm at now. I'm just saying that's an example.
Right.
But yeah, obviously I think we're on a lot of the same pages. Everybody's going to deal with it in a different way, but I do think at some case everybody is attempting to transmute that pain or that feeling into something a little bit better.
Yeah. I guess I can kind of like I get what you're laying down. I just think that there's different ways to get to that point,
For sure.
and that point looks different for everybody.
Yeah.
Like for me, I guess there's a part of me that
Can I ask a question?
what's up?
This is just me thinking out loud because this is something that I have done. It is, for me, part of my inability to manage my trauma was not allowing it to truly exist, because I felt that if I needed outside assistance or I needed somebody to help me through it, that meant I wasn't strong enough to manage that trauma or that issue. And then when I managed it and then it kept coming back over and over, I felt like a failure because I was too stupid to handle this by myself.
No, that's not a thing for me. I enjoy having the external assistance. Like I said, I mean, I'm in therapy sessions with Scarlett. I think they're very productive. I mean, obviously, I'm at the beginning end of that, right? So, like, I mean, there's like really a lot more work to be done, a lot more digging to do. But I think the part of that fascinates me is the deeper understanding of self, right? Is fully understanding how these things have affected me and my choices and my behaviors that I've made over the years, and how much of that is me and how much of that is, you know, in part due to my trauma and things that I've, been through, right? So I'm not afraid of getting external help. That's for sure. I'm definitely okay with it. Feeling like a failure because I haven't been able to actually kind of like fully deal with it yet. That's a thing.
That's a big thing for me too.
Because I'm 36. Like, when those moments roll up, and I'm sitting here and I'm talking about my dad walking out, and I'm talking about getting my ass beat as a kid. Like, there's a part of me that says, dude, you're 36 years old. Let it the fuck go, man. Like, get over this shit, man. Like, it happened over 20
is that stuffing it and
years ago.
ignoring it, or is that dealing with it and processing it? Which one?
Oh no, that thought
'Cause-
process is trying to just like
yeah,
bury the shit.
I relatively recently went through something that I had forgot it affected me, because when I really pushed in the shadow work, it came back up like in a glaring. And trigger warning for anybody who I apologize if it makes anybody uncomfortable, but when I was 16, I came home from school and my grandmother was sitting on the staircase up to my dad's room, because she had Alzheimer's, and she was crying. And she said, you need to go up and talk to your dad. So I'm, again, 16 years old, walking up to my dad. I think it was in 10th or 11th grade. And I go up there and I see them sitting on the floor in his underwear with his gun in his mouth. And that wasn't my trauma. That didn't affect me. That was him. And I handled it like an adult would. And thinking back on that and having managed that the way that I did, and seeing that, thinking that didn't affect me without actually processing that was a really stupid assumption on my end. Because I never even thought I didn't even consider that an issue. Like, you know what I mean? And I bring it up now because it's like, when you look back and you see all the things that happened and how I responded. I remember my mom chasing my stepdad around with a butcher knife in her curlers. Yes, it was right out of a movie, saying she was going to cut it. Schizophrenia is fun, y'all. Said she was going to cut him up, put him in the car, and put him in the lake. Well, they live on a lake, and I come over and she's got a butcher knife. This was while I was in nursing school. Granted, he did pass away of natural causes, we think. I don't think we think that, but that's what's on the death certificate. Good for her. She has TRICARE for life now. Um, but seriously, and having to manage those things while so stressed out, I've always been a very solid, consistent, even-keeled person, even within all of that. That when I do fly off the handle, it's such an amazing overreaction on the dumbest things, or the smallest things, and man, those all came back up as having only been partially dealt with, and I felt like an absolute failure at 40. I'm using tarot and shadow work to deal with these things that I've never properly even thought through. And I'm still not dealing with them absolutely properly, right? I'm starting to manage through some of them. And they're like Scarlett said, they're the little T's, the smaller T's that were in that part of my life. And it's like you saying it out loud just makes you feel like you're saying, oh, woe is me. People have dealt with worse, and they always will. There will always be worse. There will always
Yep.
be other things that happen, but at some point you're allowed to have a little light.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a process, and I mean the thing is like using magic is not an invalid way to deal with things. Like it's not all, like I always say, magic is science that we don't understand yet. Um, after having this very serious conversation, I know it sounds kind of like silly to sit there and say that, well, yeah, magic is something that can help you, right? Because we're sitting here talking about being grown men and or just grown adults and trying to deal with things, where we're being very critical of ourselves, to a certain degree about the way that we deal with things. But I don't think that. I think for me, when it comes to my magic, when it comes to Baphomet, when it comes to my path, it's very much a part of my process. Like I need it. It's part of my process. It's part of who I am. That's why I chose to go do therapy with Scarlett, because let's be honest here. Finding a therapist that openly believes in demons is not fucking easy to find. Because you go to I can almost guarantee you go to any normal therapist and you start talking about like dark rituals and fucking demons and devils and shit like that, and be like, stray jacket. So,
True. Or that becomes the focus of the therapy. I'm like, that's not why I'm here.
yeah, exactly. Like they start kind of like prying into it more than they should. Instead of it just being kind of like a spiritual belief, it's becomes like, well, there has to be some like inner, deeper reason why you believe in demons, why you believe demons are real. It's like, would you be doing this if somebody said they believed in angels? I mean, for fuck's sake. I mean, come on.
Oh, Curse Culebre, we know all about Dark Mirror, my dear. That is a great recommendation, by the way, for anybody. I'm glad you brought that up.
Oh
Dark
yeah,
Mirror is amazing.
yeah. Dark Mirror is my main deck. That's my main Oracle deck. So yeah, that is what I like to use all the time when I do readings. Which I haven't done readings in a while. Chat, would you be open to an extra episode dedicated to giving you guys Oracle readings? Would you guys be up for that? Sometime like this weekend or this week? Yeah?
No. Mm-mm.
No, fuck off. And I wasn't
Nope.
asking you, I was asking chat.
Fuck you. So, I mean, that's the reason I came in to the chat. The very first time I ever came into Malice, Mr. Malice, was tarot. You were doing with the fairy tarot.
Ephemeral Oscura. Where are you from?
I was like, you had the fairy oracle. I'm like, okay, he's got to be gay. So let me watch this one. I'm kidding, but no, that was a good one. You should do it. I'll be hurricane planning, but that would be. I think you should. Me and
No.
Brad
It
were
wouldn't
gonna
be. It
start
wouldn't
doing
be
a
tonight. It
couple.
wouldn't be tonight. It would be
Yeah.
probably like either Saturday, just something so I don't get like I don't uh like kind of overlap your Sunday service.
Yeah, and that's fine anyway. So we were thinking about doing a couple of Twitch streams on Terra just for the fun of it because we don't do enough of it. But um, I'll be busy all day tomorrow doing some Reiki stuff, and then Sunday we'll be doing our thing from the Peace Day, which I'm excited about. So we'll be out in the middle of Fort Myers before the hurricane comes.
Entonces, una pregunta, ¿cuántas personas aquí en el chat ahorita entiende o puede hablar en español? ¿Cuántos? I'm curious. I'm curious to see what our Latin American reach is. Did you just say demonic bananas? Plátanos demonios? Demonic bananas. Really?
That sounds exciting.
Right?
Many, many inappropriate things have gone through my head in the last minute.
That's gonna become a t-shirt. Demonic bananas. That's gonna become a thing.
Oh, God, my back is itching and I cannot reach it.
So I'm also actually thinking about doing one or two episodes a month in Spanish. That's another thing I'm thinking about doing.
Good luck with that. Have fun.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to be able to. Which you should, man. You live in fucking Florida.
Yeah, I know Latin.
Yeah, that doesn't help.
No, it doesn't.
So, that.
Ooh.
Well, so I probably would start it out once a month. Like, I would do like once a month, a once a month Spanish episode. I would put it in the title, so make sure you guys pay attention to the title. I'll put ES in the title for Español. So, yeah. If you guys don't speak Spanish, that way you don't pop in here when we're doing like the Spanish one. I was just thinking about doing. I just want to kind of like broaden the horizon and kind of like open it up a little bit for other people, right? But anyway, to the point that I was trying to make, I think that when it comes to kind of like dealing with these aspects of ourselves, I think working in tandem with your magic, working in tandem with your path is important, because I think that a lot of the energy that you have built up inside of you can be used to your benefit. While you're in process and dealing with trauma and things like that, that energy it's energy that can be used. Well, I mean, paranormal. I mean, you speak Spanish too, right? So, I mean, yeah, of course.
You don't have to mod in Spanish, just mod. Just mod both.
Right? So I just think it would be cool to get like, because there's a lot of stuff from here in Mexico where I live that I've learned about Santeria, Santa Muerte, and all of that I think would be fun to talk about, but only some people would kind of like fully understand it, So yeah, I would like to kind of talk about like the things that I've seen down here and the things that I've experienced, and do it in Spanish, in español. A huevo. Yes, Santeria is very popular in Latin America, especially with cartels. So it is about that time, ladies, gentlemen, germs, and everyone else. How about a short after show? You down, Mystic?
I am definitely getting tired, but yeah, we should do a short after show, and I'll put it on my iPad.
All right, so we're gonna do an after show where there's gonna be a little after party, after the show in the Discord. Mystic, do me a favor, cue it up. Throw in the Discord link. Also, throw in the Gilded link. We've been neglecting Gilded far too much.
I don't even know if I have Gilded up anymore.
So mine
Yeah.
opens up, but I mean I closed it. I think did I? I don't know. But yeah,
That's Gilded. If anybody is interested for Gilded,
Gilded is the official. That's the official server for the show. The Discord is kind of just like my creative thing, but we use it because most people have a Discord, and it's just like it's easier just to use this Discord that's already established than trying to start up a new one and getting everybody ported over. And honestly, like I've tried having multiple Discord servers in the past, and it's a pain in the ass to keep up with. I can barely keep up with one, let alone like having multiple fucking Discords. So anyway, we're gonna be going over there. We're gonna see you guys in the Discord for the after show, at the after show party, get together, conversation, discussion, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Thank you all for being here. Greatly appreciate it. I'm of course Addie's Dave, Mr. Malice, whatever you want to call me. And as always, hail thy motherfucking self. You guys are fucking amazing. Love your faces. Thank you for being here. And we will see you next week. Peace the fuck out.
Deuces.